What GRC professionals actually do all day. Real work, real decisions, no theory. Let me start with something that surprises most people. When people hear GRC, they imagine policies, audits, and compliance checklists. And yes, those things exist, but they're not the job. They're the evidence of the job. If you walked into a company tomorrow as a GRC analyst, your day would not start with ISO 27001 or SOC 2 or GDPR articles. It would start with emails. And those emails already tell you what kind of day you're going to have. One email from procurement asking, "We want to onboard a new vendor. Can we approve this?" Another from an auditor asking for access review evidence. Another from a cloud or security team saying, "We're changing something in production. Does this affect compliance?" And sometimes one from leadership asking, "What's the risk if this goes wrong?" That's how GRC actually starts. Not with documents, with context. Your first real job every morning is deciding what actually matters today. And here's something beginners don't realize. In GRC, everything sounds urgent, but only a few things are truly risky. Learning to separate noise from real risk is one of the most valuable skills you'll ever build in this role. Quick pause here. If you're watching this because you're trying to figure out whether GRC is genuinely right for you and not just trending or high-paying, you're in the right place. On this channel, we talk about how cybersecurity roles actually work inside companies. If that kind of clarity helps you, consider subscribing. As the day moves on, you'll notice something else. You're in meetings, a lot of them. And this is where GRC is misunderstood. These meetings are not pointless. They are decision rooms. You might be sitting with engineering, security, legal, compliance, and sometimes finance. And the conversation usually sounds like a quiet tug of war. We need to move fast. We have a release deadline. We don't want to fail an audit. We don't want to create unnecessary risk. Your role is not to block progress, and it's not to blindly approve things either. Your role is to slow things down just enough to ask the questions nobody else is asking. What's the risk here, really? How likely is it to happen? What's the business impact if it does? What controls already exist? And if leadership accepts this risk, are we documenting it clearly? This is enterprise risk management in real life. You're translating technical realities into business language, and business pressure into structured decisions. That's why good GRC professionals don't sound dramatic. They sound calm, precise, and grounded. Somewhere between meetings, the real work starts. And this is where tools quietly enter the picture. In smaller companies, you might start with spreadsheets. But in mature organizations, GRC lives inside platforms like RSA Archer, ServiceNow GRC, Metric Stream, Logic Gate, OneTrust, or AuditBoard. Here's the key thing to understand. These tools don't do GRC for you. They capture decisions. A risk isn't real until it's logged. A control isn't real until it's mapped. An exception isn't real until it's approved and owned. So you'll spend time documenting risks, mapping controls to frameworks, tracking remediation, assigning owners, and generating reports that leadership can actually understand. There's a quiet rule in GRC you learn very quickly. If it's not documented, it doesn't exist. A control running perfectly in production means nothing if you can't prove it. This is also where many beginners get frustrated. Because GRC is not instant feedback work. You don't deploy something today and see results tomorrow. You build systems that quietly prevent disasters months or even years later. Now let's talk about one of the largest chunks of real GRC work that nobody explains early enough. Vendor risk management. Every company today relies on third parties. Cloud providers, payroll vendors, CRM tools, marketing platforms, SaaS applications. Every one of them introduces risk. So when procurement says, "We want to onboard this vendor," GRC steps in. Not to block it, but to ask the uncomfortable questions. What data will this vendor access? Is it personal data, financial data, regulated data? Do they have SOC 2 or ISO 27001? What happens if they get breached? Who is accountable? This work lives inside questionnaires, risk ratings, and exception workflows. And in mature environments, it's all tracked inside GRC platforms. This is why third-party risk management is one of the fastest-growing GRC specializations, because breaches don't always come from inside the company. They come through trusted vendors. Midday is usually where GRC earns its salary. This is when pushback happens. An engineering manager says, "This control slows delivery." A product owner says, "We'll fix it next quarter." A business leader says, "We've accepted this risk before." Your job is not to argue. Your job is to reframe the conversation. If we don't fix this now, what's the residual risk? Is there a compensating control? Can we formally accept this risk and document ownership? Does this impact regulatory obligations, contracts, or customer trust? This is risk-based decision-making. And here's an insider truth. Most major security failures are not technical failures. They are decision failures. Someone knew, someone delayed, someone assumed it would be fine. GRC exists to make those decisions visible, intentional, and owned. Now let's talk about audits. Audits are only stressful when GRC is weak. In a healthy environment, audits are predictable. You walk the auditor through controls. You show evidence pulled directly from your GRC system. You explain gaps honestly. You document findings and remediation plans. No scrambling, no panic. Audits are not about catching you. They are about testing maturity. Strong GRC turns audits into routine conversations instead of crisis moments. Now here's the part that separates senior GRC professionals from juniors. Reporting to leadership. At some point, your audience is no longer auditors or engineers. It's executives, sometimes the board. They don't want frameworks, they don't want control IDs, they want answers. Where are we exposed? What keeps us up at night? What's getting worse? What needs funding? This is where GRC becomes influence. You turn complex risk data into simple narratives. You explain trade-offs. You help leaders make informed decisions without fear. This is why experienced GRC professionals are trusted advisors. And this is why GRC is not a soft role. You are not paid to memorize standards. You are paid for judgment. Judgment about what matters now and what can wait. Judgment about which risks deserve escalation. Judgment about how much control is enough without slowing the business to a crawl. That judgment protects companies from fines, failed deals, customer trust loss, and board-level surprises. That's why GRC salaries scale well in enterprises, SaaS companies, financial services, and regulated industries. Over time, you'll notice a clear difference between weak and strong GRC professionals. Weak GRC lives inside checklists. Strong GRC understands how the company actually works. Strong GRC professionals understand revenue flows, data flows, regulatory pressure, and human behavior. They know when to push back and when to compromise. And they communicate risk without sounding like the sky is falling. They become trusted. And trust is the real currency in governance, risk, and compliance. Now let's be honest about fit. You'll enjoy GRC if you like structured thinking, writing clearly, asking uncomfortable questions politely, and playing a long-term game. You'll struggle if you want constant hands-on technical work or adrenaline-driven incident response. Neither path is better. They're just different. But clarity here can save you years of frustration. Before we wrap up, one last thought. If you're serious about building a career in governance, risk, and compliance, don't treat these videos like motivation. Treat them like orientation. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, where we'll break down how GRC roles actually grow over time, from analyst to consultant to leadership, and where most people quietly get stuck. Now I want to hear from you. Which part of the GRC workday surprised you the most? The vendor risk work? The decision-making? Or how much of the role is about judgment rather than tools? Drop that in the comments. That reflection is usually the moment people realize whether GRC is really for them. And if you're starting to see cybersecurity less as tools and more as decisions, you're already thinking like a GRC professional.